The Sabbath as a shadow. These verses are often considered the smoking guns for the argument that the physical day was a precursor to a spiritual reality. Colossians 2, verse 16 to 17. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. The explanation. Paul groups the Sabbath with dietary laws and festivals, labeling them all as shadows. A shadow has no substance of its own, it only exists to point to the object casting it. The finished work. Now that Christ, the body or substance, has arrived, the shadow of a specific Sabbath day is no longer the standard for judgment. Our standing with God is based on our connection to the substance, not our observance of the shadow. Colossians 2:18-19. Let no man beguile you of your reward, and not holding the head, from which all the body increaseth with the increase of God. The explanation. This warns against being distracted by voluntary humility or religious rituals that pull our focus away from the head, Jesus. If we focus on keeping a day to stay holy, we are no longer holding the head. The finished work. Our spiritual growth and rest come directly from our union with Christ. When we try to find security in keeping a specific day, we risk losing the reward of the peace that comes only from trusting His completed sacrifice. Colossians 2:20-21. Wherefore, if ye be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances, touch not, taste not, handle not? The explanation. Paul asks a piercing question. If you died with Christ on the cross, why are you still acting like you are under the old world's rules? Ordinances refers to the legalistic requirements of the law. The finished work. On the cross, Jesus blotted out the handwriting of ordinances, Colossians 2:14. To go back to a must-do Sabbath day is to act as if we aren't actually dead to the law and alive in the finished work of grace. Colossians 2:22-23, which all are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrines of men. Which things have indeed a shew of wisdom in will worship, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. The explanation. These external rules might look pious or holy to others, but Paul says they have no power to actually change the human heart or restrain the flesh. The finished work. True rest isn't found in neglecting the body or strictly following a calendar. It is found in the honor of Christ's finished work. The will worship of keeping a day is replaced by the spirit worship of resting in Him every single day. 2. Entering His rest, the spiritual rest. The book of Hebrews spends significant time explaining that the rest God promised wasn't just about the land of Israel or a Saturday Sunday, it was about faith. Hebrews 4:3 and 4:9-10. Now we who have believed enter that rest. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their own work, just as God did from His. The argument. Just as God rested after creation, we rest from trying to earn salvation through works, instead trusting in Christ's sacrifice. Jesus as the Lord of the Sabbath. Jesus frequently challenged the legalistic view of the day to show that He is the point of the law, not the servant of it. These verses are arguably the most beautiful invitation to the New Covenant Sabbath. Here, Jesus isn't just teaching about rest, He is revealing that He is the rest. Matthew 11:28, Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The explanation. In this context, labor and heavy laden refer to the crushing weight of the Pharisaic legal system, which demanded perfect adherence to hundreds of laws, including strict Sabbath rules. Jesus invites them to stop looking at the law for relief and look at Him instead. The finished work. He doesn't say go to the temple or wait until Saturday. He says, Come unto me. The rest is a gift He gives, not a reward for a day well kept. Matthew 11 verse 29, Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. The explanation. A yoke was a common metaphor for a rabbi's specific set of teachings or interpretations of the law. Jesus is replacing the heavy yoke of doing with the light yoke of being in relationship with Him. The finished work. This is a rest unto your souls, which is far deeper than just resting your physical body once a week. It is the internal peace of knowing that your soul is secure because of Christ's character and His completed sacrifice. Matthew 11:30. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The explanation. Religion and the law are heavy because they depend on human effort, which always falls short. Jesus' burden is light because he has already done the heavy lifting on the cross. The finished work. We no longer carry the burden of trying to prove our holiness through rituals like the weekly Sabbath. Instead, we carry the light burden of simply trusting in what he has already accomplished. Our work is simply to believe. Context. Jesus says this immediately before a chapter where he defends his disciples for breaking Sabbath rules, implying that he is the source of the rest the Sabbath symbolized. Matthew 12:5. Or have ye not read in the law, how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? The explanation. Jesus points out a loophole in the law. The priests actually worked harder on the Sabbath, offering sacrifices, etc., than on any other day. Technically, they were breaking the rest, yet God considered them blameless because their work was for the service of God. The finished work. This proves that the Sabbath was never about a mindless avoidance of activity. It was about the priority of God's work. If work for the temple made a man blameless, how much more are we blameless when we work by faith in Christ? Matthew 12:6. But I say unto you, that in this place is one greater than the temple. The explanation. This is a radical statement. The temple was the dwelling place of God on earth. Jesus is saying that he is more important than the building, the sacrifices, and the rules. The finished work. If Jesus is greater than the temple, then he is also greater than the Sabbath rules attached to the temple. Our rest is no longer tied to a location or a ceremony, but to the living presence of Christ who has finished the work of salvation. Matthew 12:7. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. The explanation. Jesus quotes Hosea to show that God values the heart, mercy, over religious ritual, sacrifice. The Pharisees were using the Sabbath as a weapon to condemn people, but God intended the Sabbath to be a blessing of mercy. The finished work. On the cross, the ultimate mercy was shown. Because of that mercy, we are now the guiltless. We don't have to offer the sacrifice of keeping a day to be right with God. We receive the mercy of his completed work. Matthew 12:8. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. The explanation. Jesus claims total ownership and authority over the Sabbath. As the Lord of the Sabbath, he has the right to redefine it, fulfill it, or set it aside. The finished work. Since the Lord of the Sabbath has arrived and completed his mission, the day itself bows to him. We don't serve the day, we serve the Lord. Our rest isn't found in a 24-hour period he created, but in the Creator himself, who sat down at the right hand of God when the work was done. Freedom and observance. The Apostle Paul addressed the early church's confusion regarding specific days, emphasizing that the day itself is secondary to the heart's devotion to the Lord. Romans 14:5-6. One person considers one day more sacred than another. Another considers every day alike. Each one should be fully convinced in their own mind. Whoever regards one day as special does so to the Lord. The explanation. Paul removes the moral weight from the calendar. If the Saturday Sabbath were still a binding command for salvation or holiness, Paul would not have said, every day alike is an acceptable view. He grants the believer the freedom to see every single day as equally holy because of Christ's presence. The finished work. Because Jesus finished the work of reconciliation, our sacredness no longer comes from when we worship, but whom we worship. We are no longer trying to hit a target once a week. We are living in the bullseye of his grace 24/7. The heart of rest. The phrase, fully convinced in their own mind, emphasizes that the new covenant is about internal faith, not external checklists. True rest is the mental and spiritual peace of knowing that no matter the day, you are fully accepted because of the cross. Final thought. As you noted in Romans 14, the heart of rest is being fully convinced. When the mind stops searching for a way to be good enough and settles on the fact that Christ was good enough on our behalf, the true Sabbath begins.